UK government admitted on Tuesday that India is not the first-tier country for post-Brexit, the Free Trade Agreement or the FTA, and a lot more work would be required before Britain can start negotiating such a deal with India. In his submission to the ongoing global Britain and India inquiry being conducted on the post-Brexit India-UK ties by the House of Commons Foreign Affairs Committee, the UK Foreign Office Minister Mark Field flagged some high-value trade disputes involving British companies in India as a warning sign on the road ahead. It isn't that India isn't important, it's just that India isn't in the first tier, said Field, as he addressed the questions from cross-party MPs on the influential parliamentary committee. It is fair to say not all British companies have found it entirely easy to operate in India. There have been a number of high-value trade disputes that have required international arbitration, and that has been a slight sense of warning sign, he said, when asked to elaborate on stumbling blocks to an FTA. Mr. Field, who is in charge of Asia and the UK's Foreign and Commonwealth Office, said that the difficulties remains despite the positive step of India's 53rd rank rise in the Ease of Doing Business ranking. Being in 53rd rank of Ease of Doing Business doesn't mean that India is going to have doing business so easy, or doesn't mean that India would allow any countries or companies from abroad to work on India without opening its entrance. There is no deprioritization of Indian issue. There are other FTAs which will probably be easier and smoother to manage, not at least because they have reached the end of an EU FTA. Other countries like Australia and New Zealand, which are very much on the front foot to doing FTAs quickly. In reference to the importance attached by India to the issues of visas and immigration in the relation to the post-Brexit trade agreement, the minister claimed that the UK had a good story to tell on visas, with some of the largest number of skilled professionals coming from India. I think there is a better news story than sometimes meets the eye. There is often a bit of lag between the perception and reality of what is going on, but if it is visa is being ranked overwhelmingly at number 1 by our counterparts, then we do have to take part seriously. Mr. Field was joined at the session on Tuesday by Fergus Ald, head of South Asia's department and India's coordinator at the FCO, who made a reference to the lengthy FTA negotiations between India and the European Union as a learning curve for the future India-UK trade ties. He said, with India, the Department of International Trade is looking first at how to address other barriers to the bilateral trade that would help build towards a future trade relationship rather than going straight for an FTA. The one experience that we have drawn is the lengthy negotiations between the EU and India on the FTA have not yet concluded. The Global Britain and the India inquiry was launched by the FAC in July last year as part of a wider Global Britain series in the context of the Brexit. It has been collecting written and the oral submissions from stakeholders on both sides to establish what more needs to be done to strengthen trade ties with India as the UK prepares to leave the EU, which will be compiled into a set of recommendations for the government later this year. So what do you think of India is not the first tier country for the post-Brexit for the UK, says the minister. Well, this can be true, or this might be a political illusion that India might not be in tier 1 country, so that India cannot be preferred first. In Washington, observing that the trade has been an area of frustration in the bilateral ties, the US has said that the door is open if India is prepared to bring serious proposals to the table to address the issues related to trade and the market access. The US in November last year revoked the duty-free concession on import of at least 50 Indian products, mostly from the handloom and agriculture sectors, reflecting the Trump administration's tough stand and the trade-related issues with New Delhi. A senior State Department official said on Friday that the US is proud to be India's largest export market and most important economic partner. Also, he said, "But we have struggled with regulatory issues that get in the way of ease of doing businesses in India and the market access for American companies and the products. The trade has frankly been an area of frustration in the relationship between the US and India. But the door is open if India is prepared to bring a serious proposals to the table." Despite the intense engagement with the government of India for nearly a year, India did not assure the US that it would provide the equitable and reasonable access to its market, which led to its termination from the Generalized System of Preference program, said the official. A senior State Department official of US said, "While we are pleased that the growing US exports to India, the largely crude oil and the LNG led to 7.1% reductions in our bilateral goods trade deficit last year. The many structural challenges in our trade relationship has yet to be resolved." During the just concluded visit of a foreign secretary, while the focus was on strategic defense and relational and regional issues, in particular the Pakistan and Afghanistan, but the visiting diplomat is believed to have been conveyed that the ball is in India's court on resolving the trade-related issues. US is understood to have told India that the Trump administration is willing to review its decision to revoke its GSP privileges to India if New Delhi comes with a credible proposal to address the market access issues that America has been talking about for nearly a year. The GSP notification is still within the 60 days period, after which the benefit would formally be withdrawn. It is reliably learned that the US has told India that it's not too late, but it's unlikely to happen, given that India is now in an election campaign mode, officials said on both sides. While India argues that it is difficult to take any policy decision at this point of this time because of the elections and the Model Code of Conduct, America points out that it has decided to take its decision on revoking GSP privileges only after it exhausted all its options with India. During talks with India, America is believed to have said that there are creative ways of solving everything, all the trade-related issues that address concern of both the countries. For instance, there are creative ways of certifying that the dairy products meet Indian standards and have believed to have talked about the creative solutions to certifying vegetarian cows. Similarly, access to high-end cell phones or the smartphones or the mobile phones can be addressed in a way that does not open up the market to China. The United States, it is learned, had been extraordinarily clear since April last year on addressing certain market access issues, in the absence of which it's reportedly told India that it risked losing GSP privileges. The US still hopes that the issues can still be resolved before the election and certainly after the election of India. So what do you think of US opening door for India if India brings good and formidable good proposals for US to bargain the GSP reduction and revoking it? In New Delhi, the US has broadly agreed to grant India a waiver from Iran sanction, which would allow Indian oil companies to continue to import about 1.25 million tons of oil a month till March from Tehran. A source familiar with the matter said, adding that an official announcement could come over the next few days. The US plans to reimpose the oil-related sanctions on Iran on November 4th of 2018 to choke the Islamic Republic's biggest source of income and pressure it to renegotiate a new nuclear deal. Any country or company trading with Iran without US consent after sanction kick-off risks getting out and cut off from the American financial system. The US has insisted all along that it wanted everyone to reduce oil imports from Iran to zero eventually, but was open to country-specific waivers that would allow limited imports by those pledging significant cut. India and other key importing countries have been engaged for months with the US for a waiver. India and US have broadly agreed on a waiver. India will cut import by a third, which is significant cut, said some sources. India had imported about 22 million tons of crude oil from Iran in 2017 to 18 and planned to raise that to be about 30 million tons in 2018 to 19. But as a condition of waiver, Indian oil firms will reduce their imports significantly, the source said. Indian companies can import 1.25 million tons a month up to March 2019, the same as they have ordered for October and November, the source said. The state oil firm are yet to decide on how this quantum will be split between them. A waiver will come as a big relief to Indian oil companies and MRPL, the two largest Iranian oil consumers. How companies will pay for Iranian oil is still being negotiated between India and Iran, adding that it is likely that the two countries will stick to its existing mechanism under which 55% of the payment is made in euro and 45% in rupee through UCO Bank. Under this, rupee is used for import of rice, drugs and other products from India, while the balance proceeds in rupee and euros sit idle in the Indian bank waiting for sanctions to go. The Indian side, while building its case for waiver, assured the US that this payment mechanism ensures Iran can't use oil money from India for any terror-related activity, a key American concern said. During the negotiation, India also told the US that it would like to import more American oil if it came on a competitive terms, said source. India and Iran still have to figure out the shipping and the insurance details for smooth trade. Currently, Iran provides its tanker as well as insurance for oil cargoes to India. The US sanctions have driven away Indian and the international shippers and insurers from extending their services for Iranian oil imports. So what do you think of US agrees to grant India waiver from Iranian oil sanction? Will this be a good start for India from importing oil from Iran, or India is bowing to US on other imports and the exports? Post your comments below, and if you like this video, please give a thumbs up and follow us on social networks and subscribe to our channel. And thanks for watching. This is WEC Daily. Think big, think different. Bye.